Okay, hope everybody's doing okay today. We've kind of gone through the graphic design creative process, and now we kind of want to get into the next phase of production, and that is setting up our file using some page layout software. And we are going to be using InDesign. So I'm going to pull up InDesign on my computer. InDesign is a page layout program. It's not a word processor. It is not for image editing. It is for doing documents, for creating documents and layouts, things from what I tell people you can do everything from a postage stamp to a billboard and everything in between. So it has the capability of doing different sizes. So one of the first steps that we do is we're going to create a new document. And with our project in mind, we are planning to create a business card, and the standard size in the US for a business card is 3.5 by 2. So when I launch the new document dialog box, first thing we're going to look at is the units over here on the right, and we're going to change that to inches. We can change that as far as our default to stay as inches, but it's not a big deal to change that. So the width, and this all depends on um, your rough sketch in terms of, did you decide to do a wide format or kind of landscape format business card, or did you decide to do a portrait style business card, which was kind of a vertical design? With the rough sketch that we did from the previous video, we decided we were going to do a landscape format business card, so that's why I have it set up like that. We look further down, we don't need to worry about number of pages. This is only a single page document, so we're going to leave that alone. We don't need to worry about columns. That would be used for like magazine layouts and things like that. Margins, as we know, is the space between the edge of the paper and any elements within the document. And for just kind of a general rule of thumb is, the bigger the document, the bigger the margins that are needed. The smaller the document, the smaller the margins that are needed. So business card is fairly small. So we're going to reduce this to about 1/8 of an inch, 0.125. You'll get good at converting fractions to decimals as you start working with software, because you're going to see that it's going to ask that quite a bit. If we look at the next section where it says bleed and slug, we're going to ignore slug line. That's something we'll worry about during what we call the pre-press phase. But a bleed is where one of the elements, a graphic or whatever it might be, a background image, is going to run off the page. So that's what we refer to as a bleed, where the image bleeds off the page. There is no white space around the element. The element just simply runs off the page. In order to produce that, we have to allow for that, and it's just kind of a little, it's not really a trick, it's just what you have to plan for. So, and again, 1/8 of an inch is plenty. And you'll see, and I'll kind of, once I hit create, you'll see kind of the page and what we need to do, kind of looking at our workspace. One of the first things I might want to do as as InDesign pulls up, and your InDesign may look a little different than mine. I'm on a Mac, but one of the things under the view, or excuse me, window menu, there's something called workspace, and I recommend that you set it to printing and proofing. It may not come up like that automatically, and what that does, it gives me all these tools up here at the top of the workspace that makes it easier to access. And you'll see what I'm talking about as we move forward. Um, I'll use a lot of keyboard shortcuts. I've been using this software for quite some time, so some of the keyboard shortcuts I may use, they're all available, access through the menus up here at the top. And InDesign is similar to other software where you've got what we call panels. This is my toolbar or tool panel. If you can't find a panel and you see that I have one that you don't have, it's probably because it's hidden underneath your window menu. So one of the windows that I'll use, or panels that I'll use, are the swatches, and that's for ink colors. And for right now, we're just going to be working with black because we're doing a single color document. We don't need to get confused with all this other color. What actually will print on the paper depends on whatever ink we have to happen to have on the press. So we're going to delete all of these swatches immediately. So I'm going to say select all unused swatches, and it's going to highlight all these colors. And I'm going to delete those right here by clicking the trash can. Could also get to delete right here underneath my menu. Um, and so, I could do it either way. But the colors, or these representations of color here in brackets, you cannot get rid of those. So don't think you can come out here at black, you can't delete it. So we're going to be working with black. I just want to kind of set up my workspace. That's kind of what I'm doing. So I'm setting the workspace up here to printing and proofing. I'm coming under window, under color, and pulling up swatches. There's lots of other windows and things that you can work with. And again, I'm just going to slide it out of the way for a second so we can kind of see what's going on. Let's look at the document that we created. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. If you'll notice, over on the right side of the command underneath the menu where it says zoom out, you see that I have a couple of keys, keyboard shortcuts, and I really encourage you to start to try to learn these keyboard shortcuts as we work through the software, because it'll save you a lot of time. So I'm going to zoom out so we can kind of see everything here a little bit, kind of discuss what we're looking at. So the white box, that is our document. That's the 3.5 by 2. If you'll notice, I have rulers going across the top and down the left side of my layout here, and that's kind of a clue to let me know what's going on in terms of making sure I've got the right page size. I've had students go through and create a whole business card layout, and then we get to the end, kind of, so to speak, and they set it up at the wrong size. So you end up having to go back and recreate everything to make it the right size. So just make sure you're at the right size. If you get here and let's say you forgot to change your margins, you can go back. This kind of gets, it's not where you might think it is under Document Setup underneath File. Margins is gone. We have the size of the page, and we have bleeds. Excuse me, the bleeds are kind of buried, but they do have margins back here where you can reset that. You could also get to margins under Layout, under Margins and Columns, and you can get to it here as well. So they kind of added that. They kind of went away at one time under Document Setup, and students would get lost with that. So the white box is the 3.5 by 2 document. The red line out here is what we call the bleed margin, and the pink line is just the regular margin. So the bleed area out here, if I was going to have an element to bleed, which I do on my rough layout, and you'll kind of see that as we progress, I'll have elements that go beyond that. So if I was going to have a box, let's say like this, and I wanted it to bleed, I wouldn't position it right here. I would position it something like this, and so that it would print, because we're going to print on an oversized sheet of paper, and then through the finishing phase of production, we would trim along this line, and that essentially would create our bleed. So just kind of give you an overview of InDesign. We are going to be going over some of the basic tools in the next video. This is just kind of a video to kind of show you how to set up your page. So once we set up our page, I'm going to save this. And this is the same on any software where Command S is save. And I'm going to save since I've set up my document, and I'm going to call it my initials, DD, and then I'm going to do an underscore, and I'm going to say business card, like this. And I'm just going to save it on my desktop for now. And that way I don't have to go back. If my computer were to crash, I don't have to go back and reset up my page here. So once I get my page set up, I'm ready to start creating, and we'll go over some of the basic tools here in the next video.